G'day everyone, this is Rangadad. Not financial advice, just like I'm looking at the market. Finally got like a decent breakout of this freaking trend line. I was talking yesterday around the low here, suggesting that it did look like it wanted to put in a higher low here, and it did. Thankfully, I was in this area. I went pretty well balls deep on some longs across a few alts and things. So, yeah, we slammed against it again. Looked like another rejection in the making, but it's the price action on the total versus stable coins has maintained above that the 9 EMA effectively. Dipped below it here, but the 9 hasn't crossed the 13 EMA yet, and I'd say until that happens, we should still be in a bullish sort of run. I guess the issue here is we've left a lot of vector candles in here. First couple got reclaimed by this one, which was kind of reclaimed by this one, but obviously it's left a vector candle itself. This is potentially just a retrace into this level though, to really just confirm the breakout. Just because it's hit that level twice and rejected off it, it's not a bad thing to come in and really retest it. So yeah, potential pullbacks into this area I would expect to be met with buying demand. The momentum's a little bit skittish at the top here, so it may sort of just come down slowly sideways. If that happens and we're hitting this level when momentum is sort of below zero, any sort of turnaround should actually lead to a pretty big push on Bitcoin. There is some issues here. So it got rejected from basically this level here, which was a vector candle as well. But there's plenty above here to come into. So I think this first level here around the 16.25 for the total market cap versus stables is a pretty good area for it to target first. It could keep going through that because this 1672 area is a better one, in my opinion. It's just got more hits on it. Obviously, there's some pretty severe drops that did get support off this level. So it probably will find some resistance there, but that's a pretty good sign. And we can now start to look at what a breakdown of this will look like. So as a major breakdown, I'd be looking at that to start with. So, and this chart, I guess, it's breakdowns of these diagonals when Bitcoin goes on a decent run that really give you the signal that you've got a top. Bitcoin itself doesn't necessarily play out with the same trend lines. So movement into here over the weekend, I wouldn't be too worried about. Breakdown of this level again, I'd actually be suggesting we are going to 85 or so. There was another 5-day signal that Crown uses based on the 5-day and global liquidity getting above the moving average. There's a lot of drawdown within those sort of signals on 5 days, but it is a pretty decent one. If it fails, it's probably going down to 85, which we've had as a target for a while. If it plays out, then it could actually double the price of Bitcoin. But at this stage, let's just say that it's in confluence with a move to the upside at the moment. So yeah, pullbacks into there, I think would actually be a good sign if we got a bounce from that. At the moment, it looks like it's just soaking up some liquidity, because if we go to the liquidity maps, let's go to model 1. You can see here there was a lot of people going massive long on this candle. So this candle broke up, closed above the previous high here. Some pretty significant longs in there, $36 million worth. And then obviously when it started to go back up again and broke out again, I'd say the algorithms sort of really went hard on it at that point, and some more massive trades coming in. And we took out a lot of the liquidity that has been in the charts for a while now. What we've got to look at is this here is going to be first target. If it comes back into this one, I wouldn't be super surprised. This one here, I don't actually think it'll get. If it does, I'll be a little bit more concerned that it might actually be just a fake out to the upside, dead cat bounce sort of thing. But if it does sweep that level and then move to the upside straight away, then I think it's obviously coming up into here. Now, there is quite a lot of liquidity up here on the longer time frames. I'll show you in a second. So I think the fact that massive shorts have come in here, $42 million worth of shorts there. There's about 90 million in that zone there. That's a good sign. We actually want to see that. The bulls want to see that because it gives us a target above. Let's just go. See the symbol when you look at the aggregated liquidation heat map versus just Binance, it's more pointing towards, okay, we'll probably just stop here. So maybe around 97,500-ish. Maybe a little bit lower just to pick this one up, 97,300. That would be a really good level for a bounce. And we've still got lots of shorts coming in here. So I think a primary target here is actually going to be 99,500 or 99,600 round numbers. If we go out to the longer time frames, go to the month, there's quite a bit up above here. So yes, we've left a bit behind there, $380 million worth, but these are no small levels either. 280 million. Just above us here, we've got 250. So the concentration of liquidations is suggesting it may want to go on a short squeeze, and that could all happen over the weekend. My primary target is back up around the 101,000. Actually think there's a chance that it could go higher than that, but key levels are going to be based on this chart here. Okay. So if I see it hitting this resistance and rejecting off, I'm going to be taking profit. And then I'm going to be looking to get back in when it gets back to this level. And that would actually play out almost perfectly. What you want to see is a move back somewhere in here, and then a move up, rejection around there somewhere, move back into this level, freak a lot of people out, and come back into this high, come back into that high, and then another move to the upside. Just getting, if Bitcoin, like if totals versus stables gets up and gets through this resistance, I'd expect Bitcoin to be sitting somewhere around the 100K mark at that level. So breaks above this, I would actually expect to take us potentially up into the 107-ish. Maybe not that far, but depends how we react around that level. This trend line here is actually going to be another critical one, just because it has basically seen previous highs. If we just go show Bitcoin, so that little spike there was basically the all-time high on Bitcoin. A little fake out of this trend line. And yeah, all the other spikes have respected that trend line basically as we've come down. So, and you'll see on Bitcoin, there's not a linear relationship between those points. So this is a very useful chart to have. So yeah, if we break through that, then I'd be looking. Well, firstly, you've got another trend line, another 2 trend lines to get through, but you'd be hitting some major targets. I would expect this trend line here to be hitting that would be around 120. This one here is probably going to be around 150 plus. So very important chart to be looking at. What we don't want to see, like the thing that would negate any sort of suggestion that Bitcoin's going to go up, is another breakdown below this, particularly this trend line here. But I'd be getting nervous if we actually close the daily but back below this trend line as well. Just on the daily, that was a bit of a shitty day, but it has given us this trend line as well, so that's a good thing. But it looks like Bitcoin wants to close back above the 9 EMA again, which that's a really good sign if we're closing above that. And look, momentum is increasing. BBWP is still lagging, but I'm not sad about that, because if momentum's in this position here and it keeps going to the upside and BBWP starts coming to the upside, that's going to be potentially a really good thrust to take Bitcoin quite a bit higher. So yeah, that's what we don't want to see really, is this resetting and momentum starting to turn down. So like if we're coming up into this trend line here and momentum just starts to roll over, or is looking weak, and BBWP starts to reset, that I'd be getting a bit more nervous about that. Okay. Similar to what happened here, basically. Yeah, momentum was to the upside, but it quickly turned to the downside, and BBWP was increasing, and we went down, 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 down. That's not what you want to see. Okay. They're the ones that lead to the big moves. All right, so leave that there. We'll see what happens. Bitcoin itself rejected off the value area high there, which I'm completely fine with, because we've got this point of controls now sitting below us as support. But at the same time, I'm not 100% sure it'll actually get there. On the 1 hour, BBWP is increasing as momentum is coming down. So it may actually come down into that. That will freak a lot of people out. They'll think it was a fake out. If we start to reverse from this sort of area, just recover these vector candles and move to the upside, then that's a good thing. We do have a lot of pretty decent moving averages through there as well. So the 50 and the 200 are pretty important there. At the moment, though, we may not even get that far. like this, if it's a proper breakout, you don't necessarily have to recover all these straight away. Like we haven't really recovered the wicks of this yet either. All right. So key level to break above is about 98,700-ish. So very high. And it could do it relatively soon. So I did actually take some profits this morning. And I went back in a little bit on ETH just to this level, close to this level. Might not be the best play, but you know, we'll see how we go. I only went in with a much smaller amount than what I had in it on this run up. So don't get me wrong, I was not trading well through this area. I basically just got back to square one where I was at from a couple of weeks ago. This chop destroyed me over the night because I was in the right position, but I couldn't take profit while I was asleep, unfortunately. I didn't set take profit levels just because I was kind of looking for the breakout and the move to the upside. So anyway, it's all good now. Back to where I was at. Let's have a look at, so NASDAQ, well, the Qs are still going, not, would have liked to have seen a stronger day today, but momentum's the upside. BBWP's across the upside now. It's looking pretty decent. Would prefer today to close above that candle there, but doesn't have to. Same with this one. At the moment, you still got to be looking at this just as a vector candle recovery. Equal weight Qs, bit of a doji, but it's still above yesterday's close. That's a strong close for a candle too. Like typically when you're closing without a wick to the upside, then that's a pretty strong signal that things are going to keep going. This is not a strong signal though. Kind of want equal weight to keep going, I think. Yeah, futures are a little bit all over the shop depending on what you're looking at. But hard to be bearish. Oh, excuse me, hard to be bearish at the moment on that. SPX coming up to some potential resistance. Again, Doji's not a great sign, but momentum and BBWP are pointed in the right direction at the moment. That can obviously switch around pretty quickly, but at the same time, I think this looks like there should be more to go. Don't know why the market's a bit nervous today. Yeah. The minis, again, I think still a little bit to go. Just keep in mind that the big guys have been selling into retail, and retail is so long at the moment. It's more leverage long than it's ever been in history, and that can unwind very quickly. But at the same time, the markets can go up quite a bit to suck in more. The equal weight for S&P 500 isn't going great though. If it breaks out of this little channel that it's in, then measured moves somewhere around 186, so back up to these highs would would be reasonable to expect. I'd expect rejection from that though. So that could see us put in the highs on the S&P 500, but at this stage, it doesn't actually look like it wants to break out of that either. So, and if the S&P 500 turns around and the equal weight turns around from here, which momentum's actually to the upside still, so it's hard to call that yet. But if it turned around from here, then the markets are going to be putting in basically a double top. Don't think that's going to happen. Whoa, excuse me. Global liquidity still grinding to the upside, so that's good support for the markets. IWM broke above and is sort of retesting this key support resistance level at the moment. So small caps may actually be the one that goes on a decent run. XLI still really in a downward trend, regardless of momentum. What it looks like, I'd still be looking at this as a downward trend, but potential bull flag too. You could literally look at this as a bull flag. So break out of that and could actually go on a run that would be somewhere in the order of, I'd probably take it from there to be honest, but that could put in new all-time high, or at least get back up to these levels. I'd be surprised if that happens, but time being, that is needs to break out of that level. XLY, XLP is actually picking back up as well. So there is some support for this rally at the moment. Again, after what I said yesterday, we want to be watching what happens around this level if it gets back up there. Break through and happy days, break away from it to the downside and not great. XLP versus SPY is coming back down as well. That there's, I'm actually going to move that down there. Seems like that's the resistance at the moment. So yes, we've broken this key downward trend line. It's only really led to sideways action so far. Breaking back above this resistance line could actually lead to a decent drop on US stock market. Equal weight, XLY, XLP is still supporting this rally as well. And we're still not really in any major danger at the moment for equal weight XLY versus S&P 500. KRE. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, KRE getting rejected from the 9 EMA is not ideal. If it closes back above that, then you can see it moving a little bit higher there. But at the same time, this was coming off bearish divergence on momentum. So regional banking, I actually would expect that to come down, at least recover this vector. Home construction, still not looking great. Actually, again, another pretty reasonable trend line here. Break above that, and yeah, the markets could go on a decent run. Same with home builders. Somewhere around there. actually looks like it's been rejected off that if you draw it slightly differently. Again, like home builders and home construction have been suggesting that the market may be in the final throes of a topping. SMH, so semis is still just grinding a little bit higher. Still suspect we're going to come up and try and recover that. DJI gold. Excuse me, Jesus. That's a pretty big candle. The upside, so off a key level too. Yeah, we want to see. I'd like to see DJT versus gold get back above this line if there's going to be a few months worth of upside on S&P 500. DJT is recovering pretty well though too. Yeah. DJI looks a little weaker though. Momentum's actually crossing the upside. VIX is back down to back below that support line. Obviously, that's more of a zone than anything looking at these previous hits on it. But the VIX is resetting basically. It could go nuts at any time, but for the time being, it's suggesting further upside. The skew, on the other hand, maybe that's why things are a little bit weaker today. Oh, sorry. The skew was actually negative yesterday, and putting in a lower high too. So that's not a great sign for markets. Be interesting to see what happens to the skew today. If the skew actually jumps up again, then we could actually head further up, fill a few more of the gaps on some of the equal weight, like equal weight S&P 500, for instance. But at the moment, that's suggesting a little bit of downside. What's not suggesting downside? Oh, actually, hang on. When I was looking at this earlier, this was actually still to the upside, suggesting that we're going to continue going up. The fact that this has started to roll over, and the fact that we're at basically the all-time highs again, that doesn't look great for the markets, especially coming off a BBWP reset. And momentum's actually to the downside on this. Not that I would trust momentum too much on this on the daily, but that's not a great sign. Kind of want this to keep going up for another couple of days yet. So keep an eye on that. DAX has finally had a little bit of a pullback, recovered the top of this vector candle as well. So, and looks like rejected off that pretty hard. It's a doji, it's an inside candle. It could go either way from here. So I wouldn't read too much into this particular candle, but it's a pretty flat day going into a weekend. I dare say there's quite a few people taking profit into the weekend. Hang Seng still going pretty strong. Interesting to see what happens around this level here. UK market, another down day. So UK market may have found its top. Yeah. What you want to pay attention to if the UK market's of interest to you, that little trend line there. Break below that, and it's probably going to come down a bit. Still think it could get to sort of the 9,000 level at least. But I have to wait and see. I'm going to leave that on there. I don't think that'll play out though. All right, Japanese market pullback. Interesting. Still got a couple of hours to go, but ooh, that's a pretty negative read. Retail sales month on month. It's quite negative. FOMC minutes. Interesting this week. Housing starts and building permits forecast down. That kind of makes sense that it would potentially be due to a stronger yen and a bit of profit taking going into the weekend. The yen's just been a nightmare to trade. TLT. Yeah, TLT's an interesting one. A lot of sideways chop here, but certainly getting some interest. High yield junk back above this trend line. It did fail that once. Let's see what happens this time. Kind of a negative day or a flat day. There's no real read on that yet in terms of overall market direction. LQDIF still going up, but potential resistance here. So 2-year and 10-year are both coming down. So that was an interesting little fake out of that trend line to the upside. Both trend lines actually. Realistically, that's turning out to be a pretty weak trend line. Did coil under it for a little bit, but okay. Well, it's a good thing yields are coming down a little bit anyway. If yields keep dropping, and they've got every reason to, just based on the technicals on this chart at the moment, then stocks should go up next. Could be a little bit of support here for the 10-year, but again, it's looks like it wants to drop a fair bit more. Copper rejected off our 485 level. Big rejection off that. Look for potential bounces as selling opportunities there. Yeah, that not a bad level. Could find some support here though. Gold, big down day. Looks like that trend line might be reasonably accurate for the time being. Pullbacks into about, could even come down into this level here, into 27.90. I kind of expect it to bounce a little around 28.35-ish, that sort of area. Could come back quite a bit more though. I didn't get my fill on the freaking it was 5 cents off filling my sell order the other day. What was the high there? Yeah, 42.90. I had it in as 42.95. Greedy bastard. Um, I did do a market order though, just to make sure I got it in. Yeah, silver's holding better than gold. Geez, that's a nasty looking candle on silver. And BBWP is resetting while momentum is coming down and is coming down out of the bullish control zone. That's not a great sign. Silver. There's quite a few indicators that are suggesting the market could actually be topping at the moment still. We've got to be pretty careful with Bitcoin. Dixie coming down is a good thing though. So that's one for the bulls. Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place. I think the global liquidity going up is good for Bitcoin. US dollar coming down is good for Bitcoin. In general, like recovery of this trend line for the Mag 7 is a good thing. Change of stocks above 15 moving average went up yesterday. Good thing. It's mostly still positive, but it's just there's signs there that we could drop at any time. So just need to be a little bit careful, take profit a little bit sooner maybe. Nvidia, it looks like it does want to come up to the top of this range here. So that should drive markets higher, I think. Google's still flat at that level. Surprised it hasn't tried to run up and close this gap a bit. Momentum is resetting at high BBWP as well, though, so good go. Microsoft, ooh, it doesn't look great. Looks like it's coming into this box. RK again. RK is having a good day. That's suggesting risk on. So that's a positive for the bulls. Apple recovering that vector. Triple M still holding. Amazon not really liking that breakdown. It's probably at least going to come into this level here, I would think. About 215, 216. Meta still going. Bloody hell. Wow. All right. I'd say this is a lot of short squeeze. This is potentially positive gamma as well driving this. Yeah, I wouldn't be shorting Meta at the moment. Holy shit. Airbnb. Don't tell me someone didn't know something back down here. Fucking hell. Yeah, right. That's why. 26% surprise to the upside. You don't often see that. Fuck, I wish I had been trading this. I told on this, on the lives, I told, oh, no one's really listening, but I said down here that Airbnb looked like it had actually really good fundamentals, and I was surprised that it's been hammered this much. Uh, yeah, far out. I wish I had bought some. That's basically a 50% gain from where I was talking about it. What a rocket ship. Still got a long way to go compared to where it was before COVID, but yeah. Oh, actually, no, it went up. It wasn't even on there during COVID. Interesting. Yeah, look, Airbnb's Doing pretty good. I do like their latest ads too. Make a lot of sense. Good for traveling families. Um, anyway, that's, I mean, hard to long it from here. It's getting pretty close to a previous resistance level, but um, yeah, I'd be looking, if it does pull back into these levels, I'd be looking to probably pick some up. AMD, AMD looks like it's testing this trend line. Looks like SMCI pushing higher as well. Probably going to find some resistance here, but coil under this level could lead to a decent breakout. Ooh, bit of rejection there on ASML though. Might just bounce around in here before trying to break out. Actually, I didn't have it on the charts, but this would have been an interesting one to be looking at. Yeah, anyway. TSM looking okay as well, so momentum's kind of in no man's land at the moment. If TSM breaks to the upside and Nvidia's going to the upside, then that should support the market. Stellantis hasn't cleared sort of this candle here, but it's getting a decent bid coming into earnings. It could be that this was just a big accumulation area on Stellantis, which would be positive for markets as well, I think. If a car maker comes out and says, all good, we're making money again, could support a decent rally. Has broken that little downward trend line there though, so that's useful. Big volume through here as well. So again, someone probably knows something. What you've got to be careful of is potential earnings might have some massive swings on this. The last earnings, for instance, dropped it by hang on, wrong measurement. Last earnings, about 7%. Top to bottom, it was over 10% just on that one earnings, and then it followed through. So there was a lot of issues with Stellantis. There was a lot of media issues with leadership and stuff like that around that time as well. So yeah, could be an accumulation, move down into earnings, and then you could potentially get a decent move up on that. Got to be a little bit careful though. Ford is kind of recovering a little bit as well. It's probably going to get some resistance here. It was hammered a bit on earnings, but it's bounced a little bit. So it had a pretty decent surprise to the upside as well. But they must have said, oh, that's right. They did say something about the outlook not being great due to China imports and all that sort of stuff. So they get a bit of support from the government with tariffs and things that might go all right. ASX 200 retesting this trend line today. That's going to be one to watch. I think that could be a sign of worse things to come for global markets. So yeah, look, coming back to Bitcoin after all that, basically it's looking okay. Ethereum's finding it really hard to get through this resistance level still. It has broken above and retested this little trend line though. So that is not a bad sign at all, but I'd like to see Ethereum close back above this resistance, which is 27.66, which would close it above the 9 and the 13 as well. That would be quite a bit bullish. CME should be closing in about an hour and a half. I mean, closing above the 9 EMA on CME would be bullish. If Bitcoin does go on a run over the weekend, that will cause a gap below, which is a little concerning, but at the same time, if that gap's up, into here somewhere and finds support on that trend line, then you'd expect to keep going to the upside. All right. So yeah, this is the key for me. Just watching what happens on total versus stables. Litecoin has pulled back a bit. It went on an earlier run than Bitcoin. Looks like it's resetting pretty well at the moment. I kind of expect Litecoin to go on another decent run at some stage. It's not ideal that it seems to be potentially breaking a trend line, but that's not a bad one through there either. Coming in with the 50 EMA on the 1 hour. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of ways to look at this particular chart. Previous resistance, a lot of it. It is holding an upward trend line, but it didn't go much higher than this, didn't clear this. Litecoin, if it does want to go on a decent run, it needs to come back in here and bounce hard, which it could do if Bitcoin does go up. But a few of the alts are finding a fair bit of support here too. I do expect them to come back with Bitcoin, rejecting off the 50 EMA there for Vine. Like, this thing's been absolutely hammered. But it's potentially where the opportunity is on some of these as well. So if we start to see a bounce on the 1 hour on a few of these after recovering some vectors, I'll probably actually have another nibble. But at this stage, that's just a dead cat bounce. Solana's getting a bit of support here. Turn those off. Found pretty good support off this previous, like that's a longer term point of control there. The current point of control in this more recent range is actually up around this previous resistance, around 215. So, and it's very close to the value area high as well. So 220 might provide some resistance on Solana, but at the same time, if we do break out of this, this looks like an accumulation. The issue is we're really coiling at a previous support level. it's there's still some signs that we're teetering at the moment. We don't no reason we have to break above these levels, but if we do, then it should go on a decent run. Just bear that in mind. There's potentially going to be some buying opportunities over the weekend. But yeah, if we start to fail these sort of levels, and yeah, the confluence of sort of coming in and coming down to here, picking up the bottom of this wick, there's a lot of liquidity below here. Just got to be a little bit careful. So good bounces off point of control. So off 96,700. If it comes that far, I don't know that it would. If we do come that far and bounce, then that would be very bullish. Also, if we bounce higher and we're clearing the value area high at 98, 800-ish, then there's a fair bit of upside to have. The thing with this little move so far, typically when we're getting a breakout, pullbacks like this don't necessarily come all the way back down into key levels and moving averages, especially when you've got vector candles above here to recover. Like on Bitcoin itself, there's vector candles through to at least 100K. So, we may get some resistance around 99,700 and around 100,800, but at the same time, we've been accumulating for so long that you'd kind of expect 101,800-ish to be a decent level as well. That is a spike on the volume profile as well. So I'm not expecting these to provide sort of long-term resistance. There's more confluence up around 101,800. Key level to watch, I think. Lots of trading around that, lots of bounces around that sort of level, 101,500 to 800. Okay, that'll do. Catch you later.